All right, guys, we are live, and I'll give it a second here, but appreciate everyone that is watching after the fact as we wait for a few people to get on here. It is a chilly day, real windy here in Iowa, uh, 30-mile-an-hour winds consistently, and it's not much above freezing if it is, so it's got a huge chill in the air today. But, anyways, I do want to get straight to the content here. If you got any questions, leave them in the comment section. And if you're on the live, go ahead and put them on there should be a comment section that you can get on and comment. So I'll see them. StreamYard, which is what I use, does not allow them on the screen anymore. So if you got a question, I'll see them and I will make sure to get to them. All right, guys. Well, as you've seen in the title, California versus Texas versus Iowa, $500,000 homes. So this image shows, LA, and we'll get to this. You don't get much. Dallas, you actually get quite a bit. Des Moines, in all of Iowa, for the most part, you get a pretty darn nice home for $500,000. So, uh, yeah, same budget, completely different lives, and we'll get right to it. So, the $500,000 question: you want to buy a home and you have $500,000, let's say. In LA, you're looking at a small townhouse, no garage, or a modest condo. In Dallas, you get a nice suburban home with room to grow and even two-stall garage. But what if I told you there's a secret option? All right, so we're going to start though with Los Angeles, California, and you get a 1 to 3 bed condo townhouse. And again, I'm getting these as we all get information. We have to depend on third parties or another place that gets this information. But according to my research, you get about 1,300 to 2,000 square feet, which I think is actually probably inaccurate. I would say it's probably less than that. But if you're from California, please chime in, and especially the LA area. And you get limited parking, pretty much no garage. Few homes are under 500,000 in this market. 74 days on the market at this price point, and you got dense urban living. Then we get to Dallas, which is quite the jump. You get 3 to 4 bedroom suburban home, 2,000 to 2,800 square foot. I don't know how accurate that is. So again, if you're from the Dallas or the bigger cities in Texas or anywhere in Texas, let me know if this has some truth to it. But based off of, I do watch quite a bit of content across the nation. I do think this is probably pretty accurate, especially in Dallas, Texas. A two-stall garage is standard. Many homes are under $500,000 in 72 days on the market in Dallas. It's a dense, growing metro with lots of inventory. In fact, this has more inventory than probably the whole state of Iowa at this price point, but that's just because of pure population and the amount of homes. All right, so Des Moines, Iowa, the game changer no one's talking about. And before I go on further, we just spent a week in one of the, actually 2 weeks in one of the suburbs of Des Moines called Waukee, which is basically the Des Moines area. It's the metro, right? And man, we were blown away by how nice it is. Even though we do love Cedar Rapids where we live, there is a ton to like about Des Moines, and especially the suburb Waukee. So if you're from that area, you're watching after the fact or during this live, chime in with your thoughts. All right, Des Moines, Iowa, 3 to 4 bed, which is our quality homes. Some can even be new builds. Well, all of them are. You can get new builds, I should say, at this price point. You're gonna have 2,000 plus square foot almost across the board. A 2 to 3 stall garage, most likely a 3 stall. Most homes here are under 500,000. You do get some above that, but that's going to be a big amount that you can get at that 500,000 or less price point. 58 days on the market, so quite a bit lower than the last two, and has the lowest cost of living with all the essentials. You have shopping, you got great schools, you got trails, you got parks, you got fishing, you got hunting, you got tons of things to do here. If you like to grow food like we do, like behind me right now, you can do that here in Iowa. So the Iowa advantage they don't talk about So lower taxes, especially in the last few years. I think it's actually started last year. Is we are now on a flat tax, and it's kind of going to settle, I believe, around that 4% mark. But you get thousands of back in your pocket yearly. I know Texas actually, and we're not quite as bad as Texas is, from what I've seen on property taxes, although we're not great. That's one thing we don't do well. But Texas, you don't get taxed on your money. California, from what I've seen and heard, you get taxed not just on income, but also property taxes. Um, the schools in Iowa are actually really highly ranked, especially the two markets we're going to talk about, mostly the two biggest cities, which is Des Moines and Cedar Rapids. We're mostly going to talk about Des Moines, but Des Moines has great schools. Like I said, we were just in Waukee. The schools are immaculate, brand new stuff going on all over the Des Moines area, not just Waukee, but the entire Des Moines metro. And I see there's some people on. If you got any questions, it doesn't have to necessarily be Des Moines, Dallas, Los Angeles, or even Cedar Rapids. If you got any questions whatsoever, we're here to answer them for you. All right, real community. Neighbors are friendly and know each other here in Iowa. I can't speak for Texas, but I have some experience with helping people from California, and they're blown away by the people here in Iowa. And I have had some Texas people, but not enough of a sample size to really say that there's a culture um, improvement. But that's what people do tell me that are moving here from California. Des Moines is having a moment. So it definitely is. It's a growing tech scene. In fact, I just had a closing where the guy worked for uh, one of the power companies, and I guess there's like an underground bunker that he had to go to, and there's it actually controls the whole state of Iowa, somewhere in Des Moines. He didn't tell me where. He said he'd have to kill me if he told me, but I think he's joking. But you get the point. Uh, and we actually service other states. So I know a lot of people are not the biggest believers on wind power, but according to this guy, it does actually create quite a bit of power, and we even outsource that to different states. So with that being said, I know in Cedar Rapids where I'm at, they're actually going to have a huge Google data center, and that's kind of what Iowa's positioning themselves as. Is especially Des Moines because you have the Interstate 35 and Interstate 80 that cross through, and it's the only place in the United States. It's that goes from east to west, which is 80, and north and south all the way to from about Canada, not quite. I think it's Duluth, all the way down to Mexico border in Texas. So you have a huge growing tech scene, and I don't think it's going to slow down. And if anything, I would guess it's going to increase. Des Moines has a thriving downtown. The restaurants are top notch, and I've been to other states, other cities, top notch, especially Des Moines. Cedar Rapids, I wouldn't say they're on the level of Des Moines, but it's close. Des Moines is just top notch. You can get just about anything. We love Indian food. We found the best Indian I've ever eaten. We ordered it like 2 or 3 times in the 2 weeks we were down there because it's that good. And there's breweries, there's live entertainment, there's the 8035 festival, which I never went to, but I know a lot of my friends really thought that was a heck of a deal. Strong lifestyle, lots of parks, not just in Des Moines, all throughout the state and especially Cedar Rapids. Outdoor activities. There's the Des Moines River that goes through. There's a Raccoon River in Des Moines, and there's some lakes like Saylorville Lake, and I forget the one that's southeast. If you remember that after the fact or during this, let me know. But there's a nice big lake down there. There's the Mississippi River. If you get in the eastern part of the state, and the western part of the state is bordered by the Missouri River. So tons of outdoor activities. We have white-tailed deer here are a big deal. A lot of people hunt for them in Turkey. It's just a great place if you want to raise a family. And that's not just me speaking. That's me doing this for 3 years, helping people move to the state of Iowa. And they're just blown away by the quality of life that you can have here in Iowa. There's pros and cons. So if you haven't watched my videos on pros and cons, I definitely recommend that. We won't go over that in this, but there are cons, but there's a ton of pros as well. All right, side by side breakdown of this $500,000 home in Los Angeles. Like we said, you can get 1 to 3 bedrooms, while in Dallas you get 3 to 4. In Des Moines, you can get 3 plus, basically. In Los Angeles, I think it's quite a bit lower in this, but definitely under 2,000 square foot, and they're going to be townhomes. In Dallas, you might get a pretty large home in that 2,000 to 2,800, and in Des Moines, almost every one of them, unless there's something I'm missing, are pretty much going to have a 2,000 square foot plus. Um, the inventory in Los Angeles is really low for the amount of population, under 500,000. Their median is, I think I have it on a slide, but it's 1.2 million, which is nuts. Dallas has a lot of inventory, very high inventory. So you can definitely get a home in this price point in Dallas. Des Moines, excellent inventory. You're going to have a crazy amount of inventory for the size if you want a little bit smaller, but still have that, city feel, but without some of the negatives that Dallas and Los Angeles definitely have. So why smart people are choosing Iowa? Escaping LA's cost of living crisis. I've experienced that firsthand, not necessarily LA, but California, the West Coast, and even other markets, but definitely the East Coast. And California has been a hot spot for people reaching out to me, and they pretty much all have the same issue as affordability, which their median is 1.2 million. Again, if you got any questions, leave them in the comment section. I'd love to answer them. It doesn't have to necessarily be anything in particular. It doesn't have to be to the title. If you got any questions whatsoever, please leave them in the comments. I'd love to answer them. Dallas has lots of inventory, but is growing too big for some buyers. Dallas really has grown, and it continues to grow, especially if you get into the whole metro, which is pretty much what you got to deal with there. You're gonna have a lot of traffic in both of these places. Remote workers seeking affordability and quality of life are choosing Iowa. Um, Peace and quiet is one of the top things people express to me why they're considering even moving here, and maybe that farming, homesteading, maybe live and let live more type of lifestyle is what people are looking for. I think, especially the people reaching out to me. Build equity instead of renting in expensive markets. I know in LA for sure, and even like New York City and them, you pretty much, if you can't afford a home, you got to live. So you got to rent, and you got to travel, and you got to deal with all the downfalls of a city, and you can't even have your own place to call home. So homes of the upstate, would Cedar Rapids or Des Moines be more affordable? It's pretty close, but Cedar Rapids definitely takes the cake when it comes to affordability. It's 2 hours east of Des Moines if you don't know where it's at. And it's just, I would say the median, without looking it up, Des Moines around that 250, Cedar Rapids around that 210 to 225. So we're looking at, I don't know, 5 to 10% lower in pricing, probably closer to 10%. Great question, though. Thanks for the question. So, again, if you want more affordability, Cedar Rapids maybe, but they're pretty close. I mean, Des Moines does have a lot of homes in even that 2 to 250 mark. All right. So, yeah, a bonus. So, we've been talking about it a lot already, but Cedar Rapids, even better value than Des Moines, and Dave kind of got to that, is you can even get a little more bang for your buck. And if you like the eastern part of the state, which is a little bit different because of the Mississippi River Valley, that's why some people like Cedar Rapids. It's not super close to the Mississippi River, but you start to get those big Mississippi rolling hills, and it's really nice in that area, especially northeast Iowa. You really get a lot of rolling hills and almost like mountainous, kind of where like the upstate, Dave. Cedar Rapids, Iowa's rising star. The numbers 224,000 median home price, and that's fluctuated a lot in the last couple of years. Some say around 210, some say up to 224. Excellent schools, a growing job market. In fact, south of Cedar Rapids, on the very southern part of it, there's going to be a Google and one other company that rivals Google, and it's a huge project. It's going to be like 7 years, and it's going to bring a ton of construction uh, into Cedar Rapids, jobs for that. It's really going to be uh, it's going to be interesting and probably good for Cedar Rapids, especially when it comes to the economy, the lifestyle. Cedar Rapids still does have a pretty dang vibrant downtown. It's maybe not as big as Des Moines or definitely the other two we talked about, but it's kind of got a mix of not super busy, but also has that city vibe to it. Cedar Rapids has little traffic, and in fact, when we went to Des Moines the last couple weeks, we spent a couple weeks there, and it was noticeable. I mean, it definitely was noticeable to us that Des Moines has a lot more traffic. I won't say it's a problem, like where you're like stressed out to the max, like Dallas and LA, but you definitely can tell that you can have some traffic there, especially during rush hours. And the lifestyle, I mean, Eastern Iowa is really known for white-tailed deer, and there's a lot of fishing. I like to walleye fish. There's a lot of little rivers, and the Mississippi River's obviously a great fishing river if you know fishing. Um, just a lot of stuff within a reasonable drive. Maybe not right in this. You might not be right next to it, but you're going to be within, a pretty reasonable under half an hour, 40-minute drive to some pretty darn good fishing and hunting. Real estate advantage, Iowa, better value, more house and land. So in this $500,000 mark, you're going to possibly get an acreage, and not just a tiny acreage. You're going to probably get a pretty darn nice one. Um, they can go above 500,000 for sure, but there's definitely some nice acreages in that 500 and under price point. You're gonna have less traffic. Des Moines has modest traffic. I would say that's pretty accurate. Cedar Rapids is pretty minimal, especially if we're gonna talk about cities. Now, it's not gonna be like small town Iowa amount of traffic, because there's over 130,000 people that live inside of Cedar Rapids, and there's, I think, 750,000 currently in Des Moines area, roughly, in their entire metro. And Cedar Rapids in the county is probably around 200 to 250,000. I would say closer to 250,000. So we're not in tiny little suburb or tiny little small town Iowa here, but we're not in these cities that are pulling millions and millions of people. We do get 4 seasons in Iowa. You get the full 4 season effect. In fact, we might get a little sooner this year. We might actually get a snowstorm Saturday, which would be prior to December. It's been a long time since it's got this cold in November for us. It's supposed to one night get actually below zero, which is pretty crazy for this time of year. We've had it pretty mild lately. Iowa nice. This is something that's really hard to explain to people, but it is a real thing here in Iowa. I've told the story, but if you have never heard it, I had some people from Alabama that I helped move to Cedar Rapids on the northwest side, and we went to a coffee shop, and the person bringing, I don't know if it was beer or if it was just drinks, I forget what it was, but there was a dolly, and it was coming up, and one person rushed out and there's 2 doors they had to go through, and they held both of them, and the wife jumped up and was just really, really impressed, I should say, about that, and that pretty much sealed the deal on making Cedar Rapids in Iowa their home. So Iowa culture is definitely friendly people. The trend is real. More remote workers. Iowa migration spike. Rising prices in Des Moines, still way below other markets. It's around that $250,000 mark, and get some real nice homes in that 500 to a million, and you can also get some real nice homes under that. It just depends on what your needs and lifestyle is. Limited inventory nationwide. Iowa does stand out. There's There's good inventory in a lot of the more affordable prices. I think the national average is over 430,000 if I remember right. So we're talking about a huge amount of Iowa homes are under that, even that $430,000 mark. So you can definitely, even if you don't have 500,000, you're watching this, you can definitely still get a home here in Iowa. Now, so every once in a while, I get someone to reach out to me and says, "Hey, I want 5 acres and a 3 bedroom, 2 bath home, and I have 100,000 to spend." Well, I'm not saying it's impossible, but that's not very likely, especially in the markets we're talking about in Cedar Rapids and Des Moines. You might be able to find something in very rural Iowa, but the most likely not, even at that price point. So you got to be reasonable if you're looking for a home here in Iowa, just because we may not pull the prices of these other markets like we're talking about right now, LA, and them doesn't mean that people are just giving their house away either. Quality of life. The word is spreading. It definitely is. Iowa actually has been growing, which it's usually stagnant or declining a little bit. It kind of fluctuates, but we had a pretty good year. I know in 2024, I think we gained, I don't remember how many people, but uh, it was the first time we gained in a little while, if I remember right. So is Iowa right for you? Yes, if you want space and value. So if you want your own lot of land and an affordable price, um, definitely you have some options here in Iowa. There's a very strong community, and we talked about the Iowa Nights. So good people here for the most part. There's bad people everywhere, but for the most part, I think Iowa does a pretty good job of with their culture. We have good schools here in Iowa. We're highly rated. It's a very friendly, family friendly area, and people take their families very seriously in Iowa. And very parents are very active with their kids here. Lower stress. It's more about peace and tranquility. We're not trying to be the state that has the most going on, like Nevada or something with Las Vegas or Los Angeles or Dallas. What we're talking about, we're not trying to be them. Uh, if you want more of like a relaxed and chill vibe, or maybe chill's not the best word, but just relaxed and peace and tranquility. That's kind of what the goal is for most of us Iowans and people moving here. And maybe not for you if you need major city amenities. Had a recent comment about this, but we don't have any pro sports teams. It's not a big deal to everyone, but it is to some people. We don't have the biggest and best entertainment. We're not going to have big, huge UFC fights that are got these huge screens, but maybe someday we will. But right now, we don't have that. We don't have huge concerts that are going to blow you away. They're usually somewhere else, but we do have that stuff. It's just more about college. Um, Iowa State, Iowa are the two big universities in Iowa, and we do have concerts, but even some larger venues. But I won't say that they're going to be nationally recognized by any stretch. Uh, we don't have a lot of public transportation. A lot of people drive their own vehicle here. Um, very few rely on public transportation, but we do have it. It's just not the it's not a big deal here in Iowa. Like it's not something that people use too much, and we don't have any cities that are that hard to get around that you have a tons of public transportation. Although you do have it in the bigger cities in Iowa. We don't have constant entertainment venues like we kind of already talked about. The warm weather year round, we don't have that. So if you're looking for the climate of like a California or Dallas, Iowa's probably not going to be your move or your play. We do get warm in the summer, and we had a recent comment as well about that they were actually really looking hard at winter, and what they actually liked the least was the summer, which I have to agree with. I don't like the hot and humid, but behind me is my garden, and you can't get better weather for a garden than hot and humid. So the hidden benefit, your $500,000 doesn't just buy a home in Iowa, it buys a lifestyle, it buys opportunity, and it buys peace. And I have to definitely agree with all this. that's really what you're going for here in Iowa. It's more about peace and tranquility, the opportunity to have your own, you know, home with land if that's what you want, or you can have residential lots with in the neighborhood. You can really have it all when it comes to our real estate, and people definitely like their peace and quiet. I know I do. So that's kind of what I was about. So hot Des Moines neighborhoods. Clive is a suburb, and it's got parks and trails for outdoor activities, suburban convenience with diverse dining, breweries, and rec facilities. It's in the north. I think it's northwest part of Des Moines. Definitely a growing area and very nice. West Des Moines, blend of historic charm and modern housing, biking and walking trails, good schools, strong job market, diverse culinary scene. I mean, West Des Moines has kind of a little bit of everything. It's definitely got its historic areas, and they're really cool, nice to drive around. So if you're into the historic type of homes, you definitely are gonna want to check out West Des Moines if you're considering Des Moines at all. Waukee suburb, great schools, family friendly vibe, and tons of growing businesses. And then we have many others. And like I said, already talked about Waukee quite a bit. It's a lot like Clive. A lot of the suburbs are beautiful in Des Moines. They really take great care of them, and it's clean. It's really nice areas. Then there's many others that you need to research. I'm not going to put every single suburb of Des Moines up here. There's a lot, and it's more of a suburb city. So I had a client that's actually still looking, but he likes Cedar Rapids because Cedar Rapids is more condensed. It's not to say there isn't suburbs, but they're not like these large suburbs, and it's not like growing way out. There's a lot of smaller suburbs in Cedar Rapids, whereas Des Moines, Waukee, and Clive, I mean, they got 20, 30, 40, 50,000 people. Johnston, you got a bunch of different suburbs. Urbandale, they're larger, and most of your population actually is in these suburbs rather than the city. So that's what makes it a lot different than even Cedar Rapids. There's amazing areas in Des Moines for sure. It's just a great area to raise a family. So ready to explore. Your dream home is waiting in Iowa. I'd love to help you if you need any help. Um, and I'm here to show you if you want some homes, if you want to see kind of what the market is in Iowa for these homes, make sure to reach out. That's the biggest way you can support our channel. Obviously, like, subscribe, and all that jazz as well. But we want to earn our money for you. So use us. We're here to help. This is what we do. We have really helped a lot of people with the relocation to Iowa. And if we can't help you directly, like myself, I definitely know someone. All right. So if you got any questions after the fact right now, please drop them in the comment section. We're almost done here. So if you're on the live, don't feel shy. I love answering questions. Definitely subscribe for more Iowa real estate videos. We've done this for 3 years. We really love what we do. It's been pretty crazy, the success we've had with it. And we can't thank all our viewers and clients that have chosen to use us through this. And another thing to know is if you're searching in Iowa and you're using Real.com, Zillow, all these third parties, they're taking a big slice of that agent's commission. So if it's me, great. Reach out directly to an agent. I definitely would love to work with you, but if it's another agent, try to reach out to them directly. You might get a better deal on your house, especially if you're working with us. So yeah, guys, that's it. Looks like there's no questions. Thank you for your time, and hopefully this helps you know the difference between some of the larger markets compared to Iowa's larger markets.